Hi everyone, welcome to eShe TV. I'm Aekta Kapoor. Today I'm going to be talking about this new film called Jungle Cry, which is about a real life story of underprivileged boys from Odisha making it to the international rugby stage. And we're also going to talk about what it takes to come out winner despite the odds. To do that, I have with us the executive producer of the film, who's also acted in it, Emily Shah. Hi Emily, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, your new film, Jungle Cry, is based on the real life story. Would you like to tell us a little about it and why did you decide to make this film?
Yeah, sure. So the film Jungle Cry is based on these tribal boys, actually from Odisha, who are attending Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences. And Dr. Samantha is the one who has started the institution several years ago. He went from having 30 students to now having over 30,000 students. And he feeds them, educates them, clothes them, houses them. He even has vocational training for them. So that way he understands that not every kid is going to be a doctor or a lawyer as most Indian parents want. Some of these kids, they're Adivasi tribal boys, rural, some are orphans. And so he realizes that some of these boys or girls are going to go on to become farmers or fishermen or tailors and things of that nature. So he makes an effort to not only give them an education, but also give them some technical training of some sort. He's also known for having really great athletes. Actually, one of his students, I believe, won a gold at the Olympics, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. A female, she was a track runner, and so she was on the cover of Vogue India, but that she came from Bhubaneswar in Odisha. And so these tribal people, I should say, in Odisha are very strong. They're very athletic, very agile, and so they're great when it comes to sports. And so it's obvious, to make them into incredible athletes. And Paul Walsh, who is part of the embassy, the British embassy, had come to visit the school and found these boys that were playing soccer and kabaddi, which is an Indian sport. And he saw how agile, how rigid, how rough and tough, how strong they were. And so he said, coming from England, he said, why don't I teach these boys how to play rugby? I mean, they have what it takes. And on top of that, there's actually a World Cup, Junior World Rugby Cup, that is happening in about 4 months. So we have 4 months to train, and you have to compete this year, because if you don't, you're going to age out by next year for the Junior World Cup. So he spoke to Dr. Samantha about it, and Dr. Samantha was on board immediately. Obviously, he wants to give these kids a international platform to really show their talent. And so they took them to England to play in the World Cup, and they ended up winning. But the unfortunate part about all of this is that the same year, India won the World Cricket Cup. And so all of the attention, all of the media, all of the awards, accolades, et cetera, was geared towards the cricket team, not towards these boys. Exactly. You know that. Yeah, exactly. So when I read the script and I found out about this story, I went around India and I asked people, I said, have you heard about this? Does anybody know about this? And to my surprise, nobody, not one person had ever heard of this story. I thought, okay, maybe I'm American, that's why I don't know. But not even Indians in India had heard of this story. So when I heard about the script and I read the script, I knew it was a story that had to be told for obvious reasons. I think, these boys deserve to be celebrated and for the world to know what they've been through and about the school and things of that nature. So I read the script, fell in love with it, and I was an executive producer at that time attached to it. But when I read it, I realized that there was no female character. And so I spoke to the producers and I was like, guys, it's 2020 almost, like at this time. And I was like, we need to add some female characters. And so we added just a few, Roshni Tucker being one of them, which is a sports physio, and that's who I play.
Right, that's right. So, you've taken the story of real life boys. How challenging was it to find the actors to play these roles, and how did that? What were the challenges of doing all the shoots?
Actually, we didn't find actors. We went to the rugby grounds where, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences is, and Paul Walsh as well has gone off to do his own thing where he's a part of Khelo India, which is the rugby association. And so he's got his own group of boys. I mean, he's got hundreds of kids that play with him, girls and boys, actually. So we went with his older boys, the ones that were in high school, who could play, and portray the actual boys in the story. So we auditioned the actual rugby boys, and we auditioned them based on how expressive they were, how outgoing and confident they were, because obviously those are assets that you need as an actor, and especially one that can shine on set. So between Kalinga Institute boys and Paul Walsh's Jungle Crow Association and Kalo Rugby Association, we decided to pick those boys because it's a lot more tough to find actors and then to train them to be athletes and train the sport of rugby. It's just so complicated. So we ended up reversing it, and it worked in our favor because these boys, I mean, you'll see it in the film, they just shine through, and you would never be able to tell that some of them aren't even actors.
Wow, that's just amazing. But you must have faced some challenges while during the shoot in Odisha, and without your whole setup that you probably had in the US. So how was that experience?
There was another executive producer, Rubina Dode, who was kind of managing that in India. And she was telling me, they were dealing with cyclones at the time because it's close to Bangladesh, and obviously the water is right there. And so you get a lot of that tropical weather. So forget monsoons. I mean, they were dealing with cyclones. So that was a little bit of a challenge, obviously, to navigate through that, and how to shoot and sound and lighting, and even, shooting inside, you still get that heavy sound of rainfall. So it was challenging in that sense.
Yeah. And what was it like working with Abhay Deol? I like him so much.
Yeah, he's a gem of a guy. He really was so giving to me on set in the sense of being a fellow actor. Obviously I'm a newcomer, and so coming onto a set where you have such a respected and legendary last name that you're acting with and sharing a screen with can be intimidating. But Abhay was just so warm and welcoming. He gave me such great advice while we were on set, and he also gave me a lot of creative freedom, which you don't get with many actors. A lot of actors are very stuck in their creative mind and their creative zone, and that's fine, but sometimes it takes away the beauty of that authenticity that you get on screen. And so I think with Abhay, what was so special about our performance is that we didn't want to actually rehearse a lot. So we rehearsed the lines and the timing and the movement and things like that, but when it came to the acting, we tried for it to be as natural as possible. And even if you ask Sagar Ballary, every take that we took was different from the next because our reactions were different, our emotions were different, and we were able to pull so much from one another because of that creative freedom that not only Abhay gave, but also Sagar Ballary.
So let's go back to the beginning. You were brought up as the child of mixed parentage. Your dad is a Bollywood film producer, Prashant Shah. Your mom is an American. So tell us about your growing up years and how you managed to imbibe both the Indian and American values and cultures.
Sure, yeah. My parents were very open about me wanting to learn about both of their traditions, cultures, heritage, religions, et cetera, et cetera. And so they never, ever forced me to pick one side or to say that you have to identify with this versus that. It was never like that. It was always like, learn about everything and embrace what you feel the closest to. And so, I would go to Missouri with my mom in the Midwest, and I would learn about the hardcore American culture there. And then, of course, I'd come to India during the summers with my dad, my ba, and my dadu. But my parents were working a lot when I was a kid. So I grew up with mostly my ba and dadu raising me. And for that reason, actually, Gujarati was my first language. And then I learned English, which I just spoke with my mom and in school. And then I learned Hindi. So I'm very much
languages.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So I'm much closer to my Indian side than I guess I would say my American side. But it's funny. It's when I'm in America, I say, oh, I'm Indian. And then when I'm in India, I say, I'm American. So it's like this catch 22, But I love both sides of my cultures, and I embrace them equally.
Yeah. So, since you've been watching your dad making films since you were a kid, which of your dad's films is your favorite?
This might get me in trouble. I'm kidding. I think two of his films really, really spoke to me. And one of them was My Name is Khan, for obvious reasons, especially during that time and age where it was kind of taboo to talk about a subject like that, and then play a character that had autism. Such a powerful film. And Kites. I love the film Kites with Hrithik Roshan and Barbara Mori, because I don't think I've ever seen such good-looking actors on screen together. I was like, wow, I am in love with the both of you. Forget Hrithik, Barbara too. But just having that, I guess because I identify with having a multicultural background, so it's kind of nice to see that celebrated even in Bollywood, where it was celebrating the Mexican culture and the Spanish language, but also having that incorporation of the Hindi language and obviously Bollywood elements. But yeah, such a brilliant film, both of those.
Yeah, and talking about beautiful people, you were Miss New Jersey at the age of 18. I was thinking about that, 18 is like no age, and I was like, what does it take for a teenager to have that level of confidence and poise when you're in the spotlight?
What I've learned in life is that when you tend to let go of things, things come to you. I think when you try to have a lot, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this, but when you have like this control, or you're uptight about things and you overthink things, they don't tend to come to you. So with that being said, I had always competed for Miss New Jersey Teen USA. And I always wanted to go to Miss Teen USA. And I was like, okay, when I become an official adult, I'm going to take my acting career seriously. But in the meantime, I want to do pageants because I enjoyed it. I did Miss New Jersey Teen USA for 3 years. And then I got fourth runner-up, third runner-up, second runner-up, first 4 years, first runner-up. So by the time I was 18, I was like, surely I'm gonna win, because it's all been leading up to this, and now I haven't won. So it just made sense. But when I went to go apply, they said that I aged out, and I was like, I don't know how I've aged. I just graduated high school. So I thought, forget it. I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to go to LA, pursue my acting career, get my college degree, call this pageant career a day. When I went to shoot my headshots with Fadil Baricha, who's a very famous photographer, he shot with Rolex and Coca-Cola and a bunch of other massive brands, but he was the official headshot photographer for Miss Universe organization. And he had said at the time, he was like, you need to compete again for Miss New Jersey. So I went in not even, I wouldn't say I didn't take it seriously, but I just had fun with it. I was like, whatever, this isn't that deep to me. I got my gown, I think, on Monday, and my swimsuit on Tuesday, and then my interview outfit on Thursday, and I competed Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And by some miracle, I ended up winning. I don't know how, but I won. And I think I learned that lesson where I was like, when I let go of things, things come to me, because it's almost that energy of manifestation where it's not controlling so much,
Yeah, you've done the preparation, and now the manifestation happens. Yeah,
exactly.
I get that.
Yeah.
But so your induction into the world of films actually happened pretty early. I heard you say that you had dance lessons at the age of 2, you had acting lessons from the age of 5, and you started doing film production when you were in college, and of course Miss New Jersey title happened. So was acting like a natural progression for you at that point in your late teens?
Yeah, definitely. Because I loved performing arts so much, and I love dancing, so the dancing kind of led me to theater performances, and then obviously theater led me to acting, and then I did a little bit of singing. I'm not good at singing, I promise you, I'm terrible. But acting and dancing I really, really loved and kind of latched on to. But when I was acting, that was something that, I was able to use my voice to make people feel emotions that they might not otherwise feel. And so that power that comes with acting is something that I had never experienced before. And I fell in love with it for that reason. And so I continued to take acting classes. I went to Lee Strasberg for, 13, 14 years, from the age of 6 or 7 onwards. And I studied with Madhumati, who's, the great Helen, the dancer Helen. I studied with her sister Madhumati in Juhu right here when I was 5. And then I would come every summer and visit her and study with her in Hindi and Bollywood and things of that nature. So I just kind of never gave it up. I just kind of continued to practice my craft. I did commercials as a child. I did modeling. And so I was always in front of the camera and thoroughly enjoyed it.
So you got experience with the acting side of it, the production side of it. And you're also an entrepreneur. You have a gin label that's based on Ayurvedic ingredients. That's fascinating.
I
Like,
do.
how did that come
I do.
about? Like, what inspired
There
that?
it is.
Yeah, please tell us
It's
about
called,
this.
yeah, it's called Dharma Gin, and it's an Indian dry gin. It's actually distilled in London dry gin style. But the reason why we call it an Indian dry gin is because most of our ingredients, I should say, come from India. So the only things that don't are our juniper berries, which come from Italy and Macedonia. We use pounds and pounds of saffron, which makes it such a premium, gin. And although saffron does come from Spain, it's very, dominant in Indian cooking. And then we use Egyptian coriander because my other partner who's a part of it is Mina Masood, and he's from Egypt. So we had to give him a little bit of a ingredient in our gin. But the other ingredients include curry leaf. So we use Indian curry leaf like limra. So we use limra, we use amchur. It says mango on there, but it's actually amchur. Yeah. We use black cardamom, turmeric, ginger, rose. I mean, just beautiful ingredients that make it such a unique spirit for that matter. And I would say if you tasted it by itself, you could definitely drink it on its own. It stands on its own, and that's something that I'm really proud of. But yeah, we went through 50 distillations over 2 years during the pandemic, and finally came up with the final product. And yeah, the US market likes it, which I'm shocked because Americans don't like gin like the British and the Indians do. Yeah. So the fact that non-gin drinkers are drinking it and really loving it means that, I've created something that's elevating in a non-gin market.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw some of the photos as well that you've been putting up on Instagram with Meena, and they're really beautiful, and everything
Thank you.
Is so well shot. And you're somebody who has a big social media presence. You're very savvy with the virtual side of things.
Thanks.
But tell me, with all this this virtual demands, how do you balance it with your personal me time? Like, are you always carrying the camera and shooting along with you as you go?
No, so that I catch myself not doing it, and I'm like, oh man, I probably should have done that. But it's a catch-22. I like to live in the moment, and I like to put my phone down and be present with my friends and my family and my loved ones. So for me to sit there and record everything, it's so cringy to me, but I know it's so necessary in today's day and age, and I struggle with it a lot. So I have to remind myself and make a conscious effort. And I find myself being, telling everybody I'm sorry, I have to do this. It's for the gram. My apologies. It's not something I honestly, if I could, if I was at that Jennifer Lawrence status or Aishwarya Rai status, I would think I would delete my social media because I just enjoy being present with my friends and family, especially after the pandemic. You realize what's important. And social media is not super important to me, but I know it's important for this job, so I keep it.
Yeah. How often do you visit India now, and which are your favorite cities here?
Before the pandemic, I used to visit 2-3 times a year, but now it's a lot harder to get here, especially with I don't know if you know this, but they've canceled so many flights coming into India, so it's really a pain to get here. But I try to come as much as I can, and I love India for that matter. Mumbai obviously has a very, very special place in my heart. My Bandadu and my dad all grew up in Borivali, and so I spent a lot of time in Borivali when I was a kid and coming here during my summers off of school. So I would say Mumbai has a very special place in my heart for that reason. I have family here, so it's going to be my favorite. But visiting Orissa and Bhubaneswar for that matter, I've fallen in love with the food. If you ever get a chance to go to Bhubaneswar or Orissa for that matter, please go and try their food because it's truly the best Indian food I've ever had. It's so good.
In fact, I was going to ask you, did you try the food there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Their bindi nu masala. Oh my gosh, my mouth is literally watering talking about it. It's so good. Yeah, highly recommend.
So it's been great talking to you. Would you like to leave our readers with a message, especially for young women who are living their truth and living, starting out on their dream careers?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I want to give a message about Jungle Cry because a lot of people when I talk about Jungle Cry, they're like, well, I'm not really into rugby, but I want everybody to know that this is not a rugby film. This is a film about tribal boys who, against all odds, were able to overcome every single doubt that anybody ever had of them. And Dr. Samantha, who put up such a high stake in order for him to be able to send these boys to England. So just give this film a chance. It's a very lovely story. It's family friendly. You can go and watch it with your nieces and nephews, your kids, your bandadu, nana nanis. You can watch it with the whole entire family, I promise. So that's one message that I wanted to send out about Jungle Cry. And as for women, the one message that I want to send out is to stand your ground. No matter what it is, no matter what you do in life, whoever's in the room, just stand your ground. If you believe in yourself and you believe in the power that you have, then everybody else is going to believe that. So even if you have to fake it till you make it, believe in yourself first, because if you don't believe in yourself, then who else is going to believe in you? So you've got to find that power to love yourself, believe in yourself, and empower yourself first and foremost, and then everything else will come to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming online, and
thank
you for sharing your thoughts, and all the best with the film release. I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.